I had a roofing client that retired after a hailstorm, and I've had this happen many times. And let me tell you what happened with this guy, because he was one of the first ones and one of my favorite stories. But had a guy that called me back in 2015, and I don't know how many of y'all remember the 2016 San Antonio hailstorm. And I talk about this one because I think it was the worst hailstorm in San Antonio history. Guy calls up and said he's going to give up and retire poor. He was older at this point, but been in business a while. And frankly, I love it when we get somebody that's been online a while that doesn't optimize because they've had bad services or they haven't marketed well. But we only got a hold of him in December of 2015. So I think that's when the site went live. April 2016 was the worst hailstorm in San Antonio history. So we had a guy that'd been up only for about 4 months, 4 or 5 months. And I tell people that if most people that come to us have been online a little bit, have some reviews, and by the time they get a great website set up and optimization and start doing DataPins, then it starts to move. So when this hailstorm hit, he was starting to go up in ranking and the phone blew up. And if you've never experienced it, because back in the day, we don't do this anymore, but we'd track the phone calls and we would listen to them. Hundreds of calls come in per day. This hailstorm, even with roofers moving into San Antonio, took 2 years to finish all the roofs. So this guy was doing about 100 roofs a year, 80 or something. And I think only because he couldn't handle more, did like 800 that year alone. Now, this guy was a cool old dude, and he stayed in business several years after that, but he ended up building a house in Corpus, 1 block away from Corpus Christi, 1 block away from the ocean, and bought a bay boat and fishes for redfish to this day. But I had another guy, and I have a lot of stories like this, and this guy wasn't even in that bad of a hailstorm. This was just a site, mind you, in San Antonio that we just barely got a hold of. He retired off of that hailstorm. Most guys don't retire off the first hailstorm because they go messing up, spending all their money. I've watched it a long time. They retire off a second hailstorm or just keep going. And I want to point out here, he didn't knock doors on that hailstorm. The phone rang off the hook. I had another guy outside of Austin, and this wasn't a big area. This was all of San Antonio on this one. His phone rang hundreds of times per day. I think 20,000 houses got hit on that one. And we were tracking his phones too. He had to bring in family, friends, folding tables, and increase his phone lines to get them answered. And they did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of roofs off of that hailstorm. I think he took about 25% of the market. It was similar as well. And back when we were phone call tracking and listening to all these calls come through, it was crazy. But if a hailstorm hits, guys, I've heard people call it digital door knocking. Kind of obviously, you're not going to door knock during a hailstorm if you can't handle the phone call volume. And people ask if the leads are good, and it's like, well, if you've never had leads from Google or from ChatGPT now, you have no idea. You can't compare them to a door knocking lead, certainly not to Thumbtack or Angie or Yelp or something like that. But if you're optimized when hail hits, it's fantastic. And if you're optimized when hail doesn't hit, it's pretty good and you survive. I have a guy that was in Pack 3 map ranking in Atlanta, Georgia, with no hailstorm, got 25 to 30 calls per day. That's a megatropolis with 5 million people, no hail, and 25 to 30 calls per day per that guy. And so it's great. You want to be in ranking, you want to optimize, and you can build into a juggernaut. Biggest problem people have is they stop marketing. They don't optimize. They think it's some magic trick. So guys, if you're using DataPins and doing this stuff, we've worked on it for 7 years for starters. It's our software. It's not white labeled. You don't know this, but most people you talk to put goofy stuff up and do a poor effort. DataPins is ours. We own it. We work on it. It's for you. It allows you to raise your hand on every job. And it raises your hand with a concerted SEO effort together. It doesn't get like bracketed on to a bad effort. We make sure that your website's great, that you have representation for your materials and services. And you say, hey, we did this job here. Yes, obviously we'll email them and text them, leave us a review, but most people won't. And even if they did, you don't get the data points here. So you can say, hey, we did this type of certainty or Atlas shingle or GAF or this type of leak was fixed or whatever. You raise your hand and then you talk about the nuance of what happened. It goes back to the relevant page of content, like asphalt shingle to asphalt shingle, standing seam to standing seam, designer, repair, insurance claim, etc. It's tagging each page with relevant content, which happens to be helpful content, and it's a great user experience. So Google sees you raising your hand, you've got 50 reviews, you've done 700 data pins. You bet it helps you show up in ranking better when you have validation of work. So if you had to wait for reviews only and you had a poor website, you might not even show up in ranking. You're like, wow, God, what's happening? I've gotten all these reviews and I don't show up. It's because you have a poor user experience. You have a poor base for the brand. The other signals aren't there. You can't just do a lopsided one thing like a spammed website or a bad website and throw in reviews and expect to dominate. But if you actually produce all this together, it all interplays, and it's your digital footprint that gets graded by Google or ChatGPT or Grok, and then you deserve to show up in ranking because you're going to make their algorithm and search look good because you're a great user experience, and then they trust your brand. So as you use DataPins, it'll be there for you. It'll help increase keywords, and then when hail hits or something else, or someone's just looking for a roof, there you are. If I had to help you guys understand this stuff, you're a digital brand. Google or AI, Grok or ChatGPT, Perplexity, they don't penalize people who have the best brand and digital brand signaling, the best website with data pins. They're not penalizing greatness. They show people the best there are in their market. So if you fight and brand signal, I'm personally, just to relate this back here, very, very busy this week, this year, every week, every month. And I stopped to do my marketing because it's the backbone of it. What would happen if I didn't come in here and talk to you guys and make some videos? I would then become not busy. So if you're not busy, it is because you haven't championed your brand and marketed. That's the reason why. And if hail hits, you can retire from that first hailstorm if you handle it properly, or you can wait around for a second one. Call us when you're ready. Love to help you out like we have with other people down the road. I'd like to hear from you. Be happy to answer any questions.